What's going on, Panther Nation? I'm back with another offseason video. As I promised y'all, I'll be getting these out as quickly as possible and the best content that I can give y'all as quickly as possible as well. And this video will be loaded with a bunch of content, man. I'm going to be throwing stuff at y'all, talking about literally everything we can do for agency, the cap space we have, kind of diving deep into the free agents we have, what we can do in free agency, all of that in today's video. So if you guys are new, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on post notifications because, again, I drop consistent Panthers content. I'm going to do it all off season, give you a bunch of draft stuff, player profiles, top 5 players in certain positions, what we should do, some mock drafts here and there. And just whenever free agency approaches here in the next month and a half, I'm going to be giving y'all exclusive content consistently as well for that. So if you guys are new, just make sure you like, subscribe for me. And with that being said, let's head right into it. Okay, so as I said, in today's video is going to be loaded. I have a lot on my notes that I want to go over. First things first, to kind of, before we head into it, let's kind of overview this roster and kind of just talk about team needs and everything and the cap space. So we're currently 20th in the NFL with cap space with $24 million out of all 32 NFL teams, which again, in this situation, when you're rebuilding, you want to be in the top half of the league in cap space. So we're not, in the ideal situation in cap, in money, but the good thing is the offense took a leap, and Bryce Young and this offense seems to be able to score 40 points. So the needs on offense are not that bad. It's really on defense, really, that we have the biggest needs on, which is a very, very good thing. Because if we were heading into the season, like how the season started, where just both sides of the ball were terrible, we would be heading into the offseason with no cap space, just having to rely on draft picks. But as I said, the good thing is we don't have to. There's only really one side of the ball that we really have to hone in on all free agency, all draft, and tweak a little bit of the offense. But the team needs, in my opinion, you got on offense is only wide receiver 1 and O-line depth. That's it. Quarterback, you got Bryce Young. You're probably going to resign Andy Dalton. If not, you're going to go get a veteran for like the same price, essentially. Then you have O-line depth. You always want to keep restructuring that, but I'm going to go over here in a second O-line as a unit. You don't want to break that. You don't want to break the O-line at all because this was one of the best O-lines you've had in a long time. So you don't want to break that up at all. You just want to add depth to it, right? And then on defense, you got edge rushers, starters, and backups, defensive tackle, really just depth because you got Ashawn, you got Derek Brown. Corner, that's a need, is specifically depth as well, but I'm going to go over corner here in a second. Then you have safety. Safety's a big need. It's one of the worst positions on this team, especially a player that might be leaving in free agency. And then linebacker depth. And honestly, starters too. Unless you're content with that Josie Jewell, Trevor Wallace pair with, I think we will be content with it because Trevor Wallace is a rookie. He's a young player. We believe in him. And then Josie Jewell is a savvy veteran. But you're not really comfortable with that right now unless Trevor Wallace takes a leap, which we all hope he does. So, first point that I want to specifically touch and go over is the offensive line. And the biggest thing holding us back with cap space is Taylor Moton. He has the biggest cap hit out of anybody on this team this year, set to make $31 million all this season. This year alone, his last season of his contract, people are talking about maybe we should cut him to save money for this season and add a little bit to compete. Don't do that. 2 reasons. One, because you just had one of the best offensive line performances in a long time if you're the Panthers. You don't want to break that up. Like, you don't want to mess that up, right? You don't. You want to keep this unit together. I understand if you cut them, you save, I think it was like 11 mil, then you have some dead cap for the years, to come, which you don't want to do that because you're not competing right now. Like, this one offseason, you're not going to make a super big run in the playoffs. The year after, you're maybe hoping you can do that, which is when maybe you make that move, but he's off the books next year. He's going to be, I think, 31, 32 next offseason, so maybe you can decide probably we're not going to maybe not resign him. If we do, it'll be on a minimum contract. I will not mind it, but if we're going to cut him this year, don't do it because it's just, yes, it'll save you money this year to make another move that you want to do, but don't. You're breaking up the O-line. You have to go find another right tackle. Again, people say maybe you move Icky to the right tackle. There are movements, but I just feel like this offensive line was so good. You don't want to you don't want to mess that up. You don't. And the second, you have that dead cap for years to come. You don't want to stack the dead cap up at all. You just don't want to do that. And you're not competing this year. Like, now, if we were the Bengals and you're like, just go get that, player. Okay, sure, but we're not. we have another year or two before we're really competing and taking that leap. So I just want to give y'all context on why our cap space is so low, because it seems like we don't have a lot of players on cap. We got like Robert Hunt, JC's not even on contract yet. Derek Brown, I think this is his first year coming up where he's going to start that max contract that we gave him last offseason. So we're not really a bit like a lot of players on books, but Taylor Moe making that $31 million this season alone is the reason why we're so low in cap. Second, you only have $24 million, as I stated. So if you want to go after T. Higgins in free agency, a Garrett Wilson, a trade, or even just throw a bag at someone like a Chris Godwin, that'll be really the only big move, quote unquote, you can make all free agency. Of course, depth pieces, but in terms of making a big move, like last season, you got Robert Hunt and Damon Lewis on those big contracts, and even Jadeveon Clowney to a certain extent was a big move when you signed him to 2 years, $20 million, which is $10 million. Like you're not gonna be able to do that for another player if you go out there and get a Chris Godwin who's going to want probably $20 million a year. T. Higgins is going to want $30+ million a year, which is absolutely worth it. But if you go make that move, you're not going to have wiggle room to make any other moves, if that makes sense. And Garrett Wilson, you're going to trade for him, so but you're going to have to extend him. If you trade for Garrett Wilson, you have to extend him. Like I don't trade for a guy just to not extend him, especially when you're that good of a receiver. You better not trade for a player like Garrett Wilson and not extend him. It's kind of my thing on that. But if you want to go after a guy like that, which my philosophy this entire time, ever since the season, everybody was like, oh, we got to get a receiver. Don't get one of the drafts. I would prefer to just draft defense because the defensive class is so deep, and just go after a receiver in free agency, because that's all you need on offense really. It's just a wide receiver one. If you can go out there and say, okay, all of our money is going to be spent there, complete the offense. Our offense can score 30+ points a game next year if it really wants to, like at its peak, and go out there and get someone at 8 that can come in right away, like a Jalen Walker, and just be that impactful player on defense, draft in the, maybe trade up in the early second round and get someone there as well, like a safety, or even go Malachi Starks. I'm going to mention here in a second at 8 if you want. Just draft defense. I don't want to draft a receiver 8 because I'm not really high on any receivers anyway. I'm really high on Luther Burden, but that's it. Ted is really just you have to throw names out there at every position. You have to throw, this guy's number 1. But in my opinion, there's no receiver here besides Luther Burden that's really a top 10 talent, in my opinion. Like, I could be wrong, but I'm one of the few Panther fans that feel that way with Ted. I'm not really a top 10 feel on him. I'm really a Luther Burden player, but even him, I would rather get a Jalen Walker or a James Pierce over a Luther Burden. Just rather would. So next, safety. This is one of the biggest needs on defense. No one's really talking about it. It's kind of going under the radar. Xavier Woods is a free agent, and we're not going to re-sign him. Just going to say it right there, because first of all, he's not that valuable. What he's going to want probably, I just don't feel like he's probably going to want, again, it's not going to be a lot of money, but he's not that valuable to where you're just going to, waste the money that you have for that guy. Like, he hasn't made an impact enough for you to say, okay, we're going to bring him back, especially in defense that was historically bad. We've been talking about, we want to wash this entire defense out pretty much, besides JC, Mike Jackson, and the rookies, of course, just exclude the rookies. And then you got Derek Brown, A'Shawn Robinson, that's it. And then even Jadeveon, you potentially make a decision on. I would say keep him, because then, yes, he's making $10 million this year. It's not ideal for a player that's not really being that impactful for the money you're giving him. But you can plug in that pass rusher that I hope we drafted 8. If not 8, we trade down and get one. I hope it's a pass rusher. If not, there's no player I really like. I'm going to talk about here in a second. At the safety position, I think I know what I'm talking about. But he's just not that valuable. And Nick Scott sucks. Damani Richardson showed a little bit of flash towards the end of the season. I like Damani, but I feel like to be a starter, absolutely not right now. He's a good depth piece, but in terms of being a starter right now, it's just not. Damani's not there yet. And of course, you got Jordan Fuller, but it's just the defense was so bad. You want to wash out 80% of the defense, because there's no reason why you bring back a lot of this defense. There's no reason why. So, which I point back to why I would not mind if we went out there and drafted a guy like Malachi Starks at number 8, because he is so good. He's a top 5 talent in this class. He's just very good. Very good safety. He has the ball skills. He has everything you want in a number 1 safety. And the safety position is so bad right now. It's like it's on par to being as bad, if not maybe even worse than the edge position right now. But no one's realizing it. But it's a terrible, especially if we don't bring back, Xavier Woods, which I don't anticipate us doing. you're gonna have to go out there and get a safety, which there's Justin Reed out there, or Javon Holland, for example. But those are not some big time star players. They're not. You're basically gonna say, okay, you're gonna be a number one for this season. So at corner, I feel like at this point, it's really just depth that we need at corner because, of course, you got J.C. Horn, who's a top 8 corner when healthy. I think we know that. Mike Jackson, I'm not comfortable with him being your 2 heading into a season. Like, I'm just not. I mean, he's very inconsistent, very consistent, very consistent. It's either he's making a big play or he's giving up 100 yards a game. It's just, I hate it. I hate it. Mike Jackson is not a number 2 corner. He'll be very good number 3, though. Very good number 3. And then we got Shaw Smith-Wade as a solid slot corner that you can have there, who, when he was out there as a rookie, played pretty well to not really have a lot of hiccups like Mike Jackson did, to be honest. Like, he didn't make the big plays like Mike Jackson did week to week, but he also didn't make the big mistakes like Mike Jackson did week to week. So you probably go out there and just draft another guy like did with Shaw Smith-Wade and hope he develops, but you're not in a position where like corner's a terrible spot you're in, right? And also corner, don't really like a lot of the, you got Stephon Gilmore in free agency. You got some of these veterans as well that you can go after, but like Stephon Gilmore will be a good get. Like, if you can figure out a way to get him, that'll be a good number 2 corner you can have, and you have a very good solid 3, even 4 group corner room if you get a Stephon Gilmore type player. But it's kind of how I feel about the corner position. Really just need depth, right? Because you have J.C. Horn, right? You're very top heavy, like unlike safety where Xavier Woods is gone now. You got Damani Richardson, Nick Scott, Jordan Fuller right now. Who are you gonna get? You have to get somebody. So Malachi Starks, for me, will not be mad at all, even a little bit, if we went out there and got a Malachi Starks at all, because it's just safety is a terrible position, So okay, now I'm going to touch on the freeness that we have. We're in a second. A lot of these players, we're not resigning. I'm just going to keep it real. Austin Corbett, injury prone, just doubt it. We have a lot of depth. We have a good amount of depth there. Like, K-May stepped in and played pretty well at center. I just don't see Austin Corbett coming back. Don't see it. Xavier Woods, don't see him coming back. Andy Dalton, I can see it because, again, he kind of helped Bryce, and he was a very good veteran. He is a very good veteran. If you need him to come in for 1 or 2 games if Bryce gets injured, he's very reliable. Andy Dalton should come back. Jordan Fuller, he wasn't. Jordan Fuller could very well come back for depth purposes at the safety position because, again, safety's so bad. I just don't see why he wouldn't come back on a minimal deal unless we just go get somebody else. Then you got Shaq Thompson. I don't see it. I just don't see it with Shaq either and it hurts because Shaq is a very loyal player for us, very loyal, but it's just the injuries have been catching up. He's getting older, and I just don't see a way he comes back unless it's like a very minimal deal, like a Jadeveon Clowney level type, like 8 to 10 mil per year type contract. That's it. Because Shaq, if you resign Shaq, he's instantly your best linebacker. Like, it's not a question. He's better than Trevor Wallace, better than Joseph Jewell, but because you have limited cap space and you don't want to retain a lot of these defensive players, yeah. Sam Franklin, he should be back because he's a very good special teams player and just a dog that Dan Morgan wants. So I would think Sam Franklin would come back on a good minimal deal, probably like 3-4 mil a year, something easy, something small that he deserves, bro. He's a very good special teams player, and he can give you some snaps, to be honest with you. So, and then Ian Thomas, get him out. I don't care. Ian Thomas better not be on the Panthers next year. Nick Scott, same thing. He sucks. He's terrible safety. Brady Christensen, for depth purposes, I could very well see Brady coming back as well on a solid deal. Tommy Tremble, if you go in the next season with JT and Tommy Tremble as your 1-2 tight end, I'm comfortable, right? I would rather maybe us, maybe even draft one in maybe the later rounds, 3rd, 4th round, 5th round. But if that's what if that's what the staff wants to go into next season with, I think we're fine, right? I think we're fine. So it's kind of how I feel. And then Mike Jackson, of course, should be coming back probably on another like 1-year deal, probably as he should get, like probably 1 year, $6 million type contract, which he deserves. Listen, he's very good at times, but I'm just not comfortable with him being your number 2. So if you can go out there and get somebody else, maybe draft a player that you really like in the 2nd round at corner, like this defensive class is so deep, you got so many options, so many options. And then you got David Moore too. David Moore, bro, as a depth piece, I would love to have back because he was so underrated for us this season, man. So underrated. He had so many good plays for us. He was a big player for Bryce when he came back. Big time player for Bryce when he came back. So those are the big time free agents. Again, there's not any big time players in free agency this year for us, like no big time name. We kind of got all those players locked up. We got to, extend JC Horn, which I hope we do here soon, so I can make a video on that because he absolutely deserves it. But those are the big time players. Not really a lot. A lot of them are gone, but a lot of them are just depth pieces. None of them are, true time starters besides Mike Jackson and maybe Tommy Trumbull. That's about it. So, yeah, man. It's kind of how I feel about the free agents and what we should do this free agency and how we should attack before the draft. If you guys enjoyed this video, subscribe for me if you guys are new, and I'll see you guys next video. Peace.